Welcome to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Cower from the Morning Extra, along with Daniel Madelon. He is the CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. Special guest in the studio today. As you know, we talk to people that support the community, people that are involved in the community, and people that mean a lot to the community. And let me tell you, Cherokee County School Police, they do a yeoman's work. They do great work, and we have Chief Buster Cushing. He is the Chief of Police for Cherokee County Schools, as well as Captain Richie Rich. He is a captain and a administrative operations commander, which I gotta tell you, man, that sounds pretty intense. Keeps you busy, I bet.
It does.
Yeah.
It just keeps the train on track.
Yeah, and it's hard to forget your name.
It truly is. It's been a good name. My parents, honestly, I'm named after a family member. I tease people all the time that pretty much my parents didn't believe that I could remember two names, so they just gave me the same name twice.
So you're not like Scrooge McDuck where you just swim
No,
in gold.
I wish I would. Name only, rich in love. That's it.
I love it. But we'll go back to you, Chief. 29 years in law enforcement and dedicated the majority of your career to public safety. 23 years at Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. Various roles: undercover narcotics, sounds dangerous; detective, patrol sergeant, a precinct commander, which sounds like a lot on your shoulders there, Chief.
Yeah, being a lieutenant in a precinct, it's a lot different than most people think because you're running basically a small town in that county area.
Yeah.
You deal with a lot of neighbors and complaints, and you got 4 different shifts, so you got people working 3 other shifts when you're not at work. So it's quite a bit.
I've had family members over the year. I got this cousin Curtis that everybody loves, but he's been in jail a few times. You know what I mean? So I mean, never down in Cherokee County, but I just know what you mean by the fights and things. And like somebody come over to his trailer, knock on the door, and he was having none of it. And then things ensue from there. But a good fella give the shirt off his back, but has probably been involved with law enforcement a lot. So I know what you're talking about when you're having to break up those community arguments.
Yeah, they don't usually call 911 to invite you to come eat cake. It's usually you're dealing with their problems.
Maybe one day.
Maybe, yeah. That'd be nice.
That's right. You show up. You're like, we called 911 just to get here so we could give you a bucket of chicken.
That would be wonderful.
It would be. But not only that, you took a role in criminal investigations as commander. Lieutenant Colonel overseeing the uniform patrol and special ops too. Spec ops. What in the police world? What's spec? Because I was Navy. I know what spec ops is for the military. What is it for?
So you have uniform patrol. That's the officers that are answering calls. But then you have your traffic unit who are just dedicated to working traffic. K9 unit. They have dogs in their cars. And then you have your SWAT teams and specialty units on that SWAT team. So snipers, entry guys.
Special operators.
Yep, that's what they do.
It's really impressive. Bachelor in criminal justice from the University of Georgia. How about them dogs?
Yes, sir.
Me and Melinda, who's off camera right now, are both wearing our Georgia Bulldog red, so we're right there with you.
Very nice.
But got a public administration degree, master's from Columbus State University, which has a really good baseball team.
Yep.
They play good ball down there. Got a couple youngins that are grown. And wife Christy, who is a substance abuse counselor. We need a lot of that, folks, these days.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's very interesting when I was working narcotics and arresting drug dealers, and they would wind up in her office for counseling.
Goodness gracious. Well, I hope she was able to work on them a little bit.
There's no shortage in her field.
No kidding. Get them on the straight and narrow. Goodness gracious. Richie Rich. He has a TV show named after him.
Yeah.
I kid. 35 years of law enforcement experience. Started your career in the United States Army as a military police officer, 4 years on active duty, 4 years with the Georgia National Guard. Man, God bless you, man. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for yours.
Yeah, man. Go Navy. Beat Army.
My dad was Navy. He had the 30-year Navy, yeah.
He did 30 years?
Yeah, he did 30 years. That's why I went in the Army.
That's right. He's like, I want to live on a boat. Y'all live on a tin can?
No, I've seen all that.
You got no room to move around. There's no places to hang your clothes.
Yep. Nope.
You got coffin lockers.
My thing.
Yeah, coffin lockers everywhere. Yeah. After the military, Woodstock Police Department, 15 years, joined the Cherokee County School Police Department in 2008, and assigned as a captain and administrative operations commander there at the schools. You've got a master's in business from Reinhardt, another really good baseball team. They are top 15 in the country this year.
Yeah.
Dude, you're out there lighting it up, your alma mater.
Oh, They are. Not me.
Yeah. No, but the place you went to school, they are really
yes,
good.
they have
I
good.
keep up with college baseball because my son's a college baseball,
Gotcha.
so I always
Okay.
know where everybody. The University of Georgia, by the way, 28-2.
Very nice.
One of the best teams in the country, so which is really cool. You've got a bachelor in arts in organizational leadership, public safety from Reinhardt, and a Georgia Post senior instructor with a certification in management. Does that mean you teach folks how to be police officers to do it right?
In between, yes.
Okay.
In between Woodstock and the school police, I actually served at the police academy as a coordinator instructor for 2 years. So did a little bit of everything: firearms, defensive tactics, driving instructor, and then general instructor, just teaching them how to be police officers and being that tough decision on whether or not they can actually cut it or if they're going to be a danger to themselves or somebody else.
I've been told that before, that I was a danger to myself. So they're like, son, we need you to just take a step back.
I'm just glad that they didn't have that during when I was out there. I squeezed through.
Yeah, so good. Is working with the school systems the most important jobs? And we'll answer. I'd like for both of you to answer it. Chief, we'll start with you. The most important job you ever had?
I think so. I mean, you think about the people you're protecting. It's the kids that parents drop them off at school and think, okay, they're going to get educated, but they need to be safe. And that's our number one responsibility, is make sure that those kids go home to their parents and they have a good environment to learn in and not have to worry about, all this stuff that goes on around them.
Yes, sir, Chief. I with you 100%. And, the world we live in is crazy. And Captain Rich, I'll ask you the same question because I always tell my son, who's 20 now, and he seems crazy that he's so grown up, but I always tell him, I'm like, everything's replaceable except you.
It's very true.
Everything else is replaceable. And those parents, when they drop off their kids at school, just like Chief was talking about, those youngins are the only thing that's not replaceable.
That is the precious commodity that we all hold on to.
Amen.
Honestly, it's definitely taken a change over the years. Before they had the concept of, hey, we're just going to have a security guy there, and that's really kind of come full circle. It's very much a need and a want for the community and also for law enforcement in general. To me, I think it's the number one job in law enforcement. Best kept secret also in law enforcement. I mean,
What do you mean?
it's not so much. It's just the most rewarding.
I can see that.
If you're having a bad day,
Yeah.
go eat lunch with some kids, and I swear you're a tangible hero.
Yeah.
They can actually hold on to you, touch you, and you're better than Superman.
Yeah.
They actually can touch you, see you, and everything else.
That's amazing. I love that. That's a really great analogy. That it's not all of a sudden. It's not, hey, you got to be quiet. The police officers, you become an acquaintance. You develop a relationship, and all of a sudden, it's not the scary guy with the badge. It's the guy that lives in the neighborhood that we've been talking about. Reinhardt baseball or Georgia baseball or football or basketball or whatever it is that you're into.
It is.
It becomes real.
Very much so. I think the chief says it best. Whenever we're doing interviews for people, we're trying to figure out whether or not they're going to be a good fit for our department. It's, I'm going to steal his thunder on this one, but it's public safety. It's basically community policing on steroids.
Yeah.
We are part of that community. That is our community. That officer, we get letters all the time. The officers are part of that community. We just got one recently about an officer, them asking that officer to go from the middle school to the high school, just because they are so embedded in these kids' lives.
That's amazing, Chief. That's a great point. Daniel, I mean, you and I have had kids. I mean, you still have a kid in school right now. Mine's in school.
Two,
you have 2 kids in school. Yeah,
middle school, high school.
yeah, absolutely. But it's so important, that relationship, and at school. But not only that. I mean, because I'm sure you deal with some of this. Some of the crazy things that goes on with students as well.
Oh, we do a ton of juvenile bonds all over the country. Yeah, but a lot here in Metro Atlanta, more than you would think.
It's
and it's. I mean, I like to say they graduate because like each year they, this year it's like these kids are doing this, and next year it's like they graduate to do this, and you're like,
well, like the next.
Your brother 3 years ago was like pretty bad, but you're like really bad.
That's exactly right.
So I feel like they just each year gets like they learn new tricks.
Does it ever go the opposite way though, where like brother was bad and the young'un was maybe a little better, not quite as much trouble?
No,
it always is worse.
Sometimes, but once it's there, it's there. It's embedded in the.
What about you, Chief? Do you ever? I mean, because I'm sure, unfortunately, you have to run across kids that are doing the wrong thing, and just trying to help them get on the right path. I mean, I'm sure that's your number one goal.
Oh, absolutely. And like Captain said, they're embedded in that community, so they're not only building a relationship with those kids, they're building with the parents, with the staff.
Yeah.
Anybody that comes in the school, they're going to get to know them, figure out who they are, and just try to gain some insight on how they can protect that school better.
Yeah.
Does every school get an assigned officer? Like, how does that work? Because I mean, I know, I see the school officers at my kids' schools and
Sure.
stuff like that. So, like, I mean, I talk to them and whatnot.
So what we do is assign an officer to every high school and middle school. And that was the case when I came here 5 years ago, but we have added nine officers. So we now have one officer that serves 2 elementary schools, and those elementary schools will be close in proximity, so he can go back and forth. But those high school officers and the middle school officers, they stay on campus. Yeah.
It's
And
fascinating.
we're working towards getting one in every elementary school, but it's down the road. It's about 12 more officers.
How about
Because
that?
we've got 24 elementary schools in Cherokee County.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
It's growing.
If y'all,
Has grown.
do y'all have the biggest department?
Oh, no.
No.
Okay, I mean,
no.
I think
Gwinnett,
Gwinnett's probably got about 90 something.
Okay.
and they're
Yeah.
increasing.
They're the biggest school district in Georgia. So
Yeah, so
they've
that
got
makes sense.
A lot
way
of
more
smart kids
students.
in Gwinnett County.
Yeah, how about you've dealt with a few of them? That's like my cousin Curtis. He might as well move to Gwinnett County from Whitfield. I love it. We'll continue with.
Strangely enough, though, the chief of the Gwinnett County school system lives in Cherokee County.
Does it?
He does.
He's got to get away for a
I
little while.
remind him of that often when I
He
see
has to
him.
come back to God's country just
Exactly.
to get his bearings back. I love it. Talking with Cherokee County Police Chief Buster Cushing and Captain Richie Rich. Talk about why school safety is so important, and especially with all the things that you hear about, some of them very scary. And we'll dive into some of that next on Back Your Blue with Daniel Madelon, CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring, here on Extra 106.3. Welcome back to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Coward, along with Daniel Madelon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. Buddy, how you been? I mean, you've been running and gunning.
Yeah.
Just crazy busy all the time.
Texas and Florida and I just got a text I might be going to Florida in the morning. I don't even know. Yeah.
See, that's what I'm talking about. My man's, he is overscheduled.
Literally, like, since we've been
As
sitting
we've been
they're
sitting
like,
here.
Like, are we leaving in the
I can
morning? I'm
see-
like, no.
I can see the wheels turning.
Yeah, right.
Goodness
I'm like,
gracious.
just be present.
Yeah. But we got Chief Buster Cushing from the Cherokee County Schools Police Department and Captain Richie Rich, captain there, of Administration Operations Commander as well. I want to talk about here in a minute just the importance of school officers and just all the safety concerns that I think are cross people's minds. You know, once in a while, especially you watch the news at night, it'll scare you to death. You know,
Yeah.
and understandably so. But let's start out with what an officer's day is like when you are a school resource officer, a police officer at the Cherokee County Schools. Who wants to take it? Chief, you want to take it, Captain?
Captain Rich probably be best because he
All right.
came up through the school system.
Okay. Yeah,
oddly enough.
start me off in the morning.
So your morning's going to start off with, really for the most part, you're going to get there about 30 minutes before school starts, 30 to an hour before school starts. Most of our officers show up an hour, even though it's like, oh, you only have to do a 30. They'll show up an hour early. Like I said, they're invested.
Yeah, and you can tell when you care. Yeah, you
very
get there.
much so.
Yeah, you can tell the difference.
It's not like you're working. I mean, you're just getting there. You're preparing yourself, and a lot of it's the very beginning is we're going to meet them in the morning, whether it's in the carpool or it's at the buses. Especially if it's the little guys. If it's the little guys,
yeah,
that's
for sure.
they want to see you.
Yeah.
For the older guys, maybe like high school, you're going to be rolling the parking lots, making sure that we're not having any shenanigans in the parking lots. And
Like
anything.
rolling the parking lot.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the middle school, it's again it's still that they believe themselves to be high schoolers, but they're still that middle.
They're too cool for
elementary.
school there.
They are. So you're still doing that meet and greet with
Middle school's
parents.
awkward.
It is so awkward.
It's by
Yeah,
far
it's
the
just
most awkward
time, yeah.
age.
For boys and girls, it's just so awkward.
Truly. But yeah, so you're doing that beginning meet and greet. A lot of times more in the middle school, it's probably going to be more parents. The kids, you do the meet and greet at the buses and everything.
Yeah, sure.
But the administration's out there for the most part. So most of the time we're letting the parents know we're there, letting them see us.
Just being present.
Very much so. And then during the week or throughout the day, what you're doing is, patrolling the hallways, looking at cameras. checking those areas that you would think kids may, and we have kids sometimes, hey, I'm going to go down to Burger King, and they're not supposed to be leaving that.
In middle school?
Sometimes, yes.
Jeez,
yeah.
Wow.
And so because of that, we were
That's
trying
pretty
to
bold.
keep track of, if something were to happen, God forbid, we need to know that we're not have a kid missing.
That's right. Yeah, if he's at Burger King and the school,
Correct.
God forbid, goes into lockdown or something, and you don't know where little Johnny is, and he's down there getting a Whopper.
Exactly. And then little Johnny comes back, and he's like, "Oh,
What's going on?"
Yeah, right.
Hey, I just went and got me a number one quarter pounder meal.
So ultimately, a lot of it is just interaction. I mean, the best thing I can describe is that we wear several hats. We're counselors, we're police officers, we're their mom, their dad, sometimes just their confidant.
Yeah, mentor.
And
even.
so mentors. Mm-hmm. And a matter of fact, in the high schools, we have some of the officers that actually do that mentorship. We've had. Matter of fact, I have several officers now that work at Cherokee County or various agencies that I had as interns, and just kind of fostering that idea of, hey, I'm going to be a police officer. So it's like, okay, let's sit down, let's talk about it, let's figure out how this fits into your world. But yeah, that's the biggest thing, is just being there, being present.
What time does the day end if you start at
Relatively about
hour
30 minutes afterwards. So we'll run until, and that's if we don't have games. If we have games, then that officer's going to stay, participate with the games. Mm-hmm. They're going to bring in more officers, and then they're going to, make sure the safety and security of the games there too.
because the integrity.
We want the kids to understand that school is where they can feel the safest.
Yeah. Right.
And so, part of that is that, yes, we do have to make arrests, but we kind of describe it as, if you showed up for the sandwich, you're gonna, that you ordered, you're gonna get that sandwich.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
like
in
that.
the end, we're here to help them, and we're here to make that connection.
No, I like
so
it.
that's really the biggest part of it.
I love it. And I'd written down, Chief, games and plays and stuff like that, because I bet y'all do show up to a lot of that stuff, and it's a lot to do with the kids that are there and being present in their life. And I would bet, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that some officers show up even when they don't have to be.
Oh, yeah. So football games are probably our biggest venues.
Shoot, yeah. High school football, college football, let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the things that are important. I don't care about math and reading. Give me football.
But you got those same kids are in schools. They're all showing up to the football games.
That's
so,
right.
you got to protect them. And obviously we don't have
that's
enough.
the central meeting point, the football
Absolutely.
games.
Oh, my gosh.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's when that's when it goes down.
Shenanigans.
This guy has dealt with it. Daniel Madeline has dealt with
Friday
it.
night football. Friday night lights are always guaranteed to deliver a gem to you.
And it can be, the kids that take it a little too far and take team spirit too far.
I mean, it's a lot of the drinking
Or
before
that's
the
what I was
games,
gonna say,
and
before
they
the
show
games.
up to the campus, they drink before they get to
Yeah.
they show up, and then it's like,
the explosion happens. But I would imagine you've probably had to bail out a couple parents that decided to have one or two
coaches. I can't tell you who, but
I wouldn't ask.
They coaches and students.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
The parents
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Especially parents. They get so emotional. Little Johnny was supposed to be the star quarterback, and unfortunately, he lost his job
At
to
those
little
games,
Billy.
those games get crazy. The games with the parents are worse than the kids.
I would imagine so. Do y'all run into that too?
We do. Fortunately, we have a great partnership with our local sheriff's office. Sheriff Reynolds does a great job of letting his deputies and the police chiefs in those city, Woodstock, Canton, Holly Springs. We actually have to hire them to help us work security at our schools. Mm-hmm. So you got a high school game, you're probably going to have anywhere from 8 to 10 officers. Well, we've got 6 high schools. If they're all playing one night, that would put everybody on our first working a football game.
Those basketball games.
Oh, yeah.
When Cherokee has to travel, we have friends that play on, I forget which team it is, but anyway, it's up in Cherokee County.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple basketball games, like some of the Wheeler games I know have been crazy. I just hear stuff through the grapevine, but it's wild.
Not that
I'm like, that happened at a high school basketball game? They're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you've seen it all.
Oh, we have, yeah. Honestly, nothing surprises me anymore. It's a little bit of everything, but I mean, again, that's
A quiet night's the most surprising.
that is the most surprising. Yes, we don't have those too often. I mean, I will say, sometimes it's hard to make the parents understand that it's their kids' basketball game.
Yeah.
It's their kids' football
Yeah,
games.
it's you're not living your glory days
Correct.
through your children.
Correct. Sometimes
They're not going pro tomorrow.
Yeah, no. I mean, sometimes they get upset. They're like, "Oh, well, they should sit down," and like they're students. That this is their football game. This is their basketball game.
Yeah.
If you don't like that, why don't we move you guys over here?
Yeah.
Because they're going to have little packs.
Yeah.
And they're going to sit there and they're going to cheer and they're going to watch their game and and there's rivals and sometimes we have to calm down those rivals.
I know. I've seen it a million times.
The Woodstock Etowah game is usually one of the worst
my
ones.
goodness.
Yeah, I was going to say that's. I hear. Yeah,
That one, they're 2 blocks away from each other, and they all come from the same cloth. But man, when they play each other, it is an ugly night.
Can't we just go back to stealing one another's mascot instead of fighting over things?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That would be easier.
Yeah,
Very
like
much so.
when what was it? It was like on Revenge of the Nerds. Wasn't that the movie? They stole the
Oh, yeah.
They stole the mascot or whatever. And they used to do that in the military academies used to do it at the Ivy Leagues. Let's go back to that instead of beating one another up over a game. But I would imagine though there are those nights that are much more laid back. And it becomes more relational again because you're not as focused on people acting up and you're talking with parents, talking with grandparents, talking with educators, and talking with other officers, and ultimately the kids.
Yeah,
whether on the field or off the field.
Both of my kids.
What about the band?
Both of my kids graduated from the same high school, Creekview High School, and so as a deputy working, the road, I worked those games from the beginning because.
Is that the Bears?
Creekview
Grizzlies. I didn't miss it by much.
Yep.
I don't live far from there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so you work those.
Yeah, so I know the kids. I mean, even before I came to the work for the school district, I mean, as a deputy, those kids, you grow up with them because your kids are playing with them. It's kind of funny. We had a high school game one year, and it was on Halloween night, and I was in uniform, and I saw a parent come up to me, and they're like, "Hey, Buster, nice uniform." I was like, "Yeah." She said, "That's a really cool outfit." And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Did she not know you're an officer?
She did not know I was officer.
She's like, "Man, that's really, that looks authentic."
Buster looks real good.
They don't have that at Party City. I looked.
He's got contact.
But it was funny because, my daughter had been cheering with her daughter for like 3 or 4 years already.
And had no idea.
And she had no idea until she saw me at a game.
That's so funny.
It's crazy.
Man, that sidearm you got, man, I got that. Looks real.
Can I hold that?
No, ma'am, you cannot. As a matter of fact, I have to write up a report if I take it out of my holster.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm sure, Captain, that you've had those moments too where, the night's going well and you're able to build relationships with families and kids and community and educators. And it really does take that to build a wonderful community, a safe community. It takes everybody being involved and everybody showing each other a little bit of respect.
Very much so. As we brought up earlier, it's community policing. You are part of that community. You become part of that community. You have to embed yourself in that. If you're not, they'll recognize it very quickly. You're not going to last very long in that community because they're going to be looking for somebody else. They're going to be asking for another officer. When I'm visiting those schools, when I hear the kids yelling the officer's name, I know that officer's embedded. I know that officer's part of that community. Our officers, like when they're not, those kids are in class, they're checking the safety protocols. They're seeing, testing the system to make sure that we don't have that problem coming onto campus. So that's when they're building those relationships. And like you said, at the games, that's when we're building the relationships. The kids coming home and talking about that officer, they want to know who that officer is. So they get to meet that officer and get to know what their kids are talking about and why they're so excited about going back to school and seeing that officer.
Yeah, I've been on a bunch of trips to see football games all over Metro Atlanta, and my favorite thing that I think I've seen was probably in the last, it may have been my son's senior year in high school, so a couple years ago. But there was an officer out there, and he was just throwing a football around with a couple of the boys on the sideline during timeouts or whatever. And that's my favorite, right? Because
That's our favorite.
That's where the real stuff happens.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's our favorite.
That's where life really happens and the relationships are built. Because that's something that you would do with your own kids.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. And and like you said, that's really where we build those relationships. We've got to be able to get down to their level.
Yeah, but I've seen it. It's funny because I've seen it with the kids in uniforms, like pads, and throwing a football.
Oh yeah.
But then during halftime and stuff like that, it's the little big guys,
Oh, yeah.
or even some of the cheerleaders of the band or whomever, and they're just they're lobbing a football around. You just see what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, and I know that you work in bonds and everything like that, and I'm sure you've seen several of our kids. You know, crazy.
Well, I hope not.
I mean, crazy enough.
I really don't like the juvenile bonds, honestly, but I have kids, so I understand.
Yeah.
I get it. I mean, I have teenagers.
The reality of it is that even some of the talking about respect and getting to know them and everything, there's kids that when I was actually at Etowah High School that unfortunately had to make an arrest. There's kids that I still, they've contacted me, and, you know, after the fact, I see them, and some of them still go to Etowah, you know, not particularly them, but now they have kids that are in that Etowah zone.
Yeah.
And I run into them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, wow, you're a grown adult, and that makes me old.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
Yeah, but then they turned out okay, and that's just it.
Yeah.
They've turned out okay. They had that bump in the road, and, you know, one of the things that when our officers are making that arrest, that's a little bit different than maybe the regular officers on the road is, you know, we're talking through that, like, hey, listen, yeah, this is a bump in the road. This is not the end of your life. This is not a career ender. You can work through this. And so they go back to that mentoring, and they go back to helping them to traverse that new aspect that they just went into, that they're not particularly ready for. And parents the same, you know, and we're not lawyers. We're not going to give them any law and, you know, hey, this is who you need to get or anything like that. But we just try and help them to understand more like a counselor or a mentor that this is a mistake. You hit that bump in the road, but you can survive this. Let's learn from it. Let's make it a learning experience instead of making it define your life.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen that, Chief, right? Million
Oh
times
yeah,
over
yeah,
the years.
and it's really different with juveniles because if you charge a juvenile, you got to sit down with their parents and talk to them, and then you have to call
like a
juvenile
difficult
justice, who's going to have a conversation with the parents. They figure up their points, if they're going to jail, if they're going back in custody, and just talk through some things.
Is the whole state on a point system? Because I'm familiar with the point system because I've done a lot.
Well, I have no idea what that is. What is the point?
Well, it's the how the prosecutor's office determines what they're going to do with the kid, right? So, like, if let's say it's an armed robbery or something like that, that's going to scale you right up to the top, right? So then it's going to require you to go in front of a judge. It's just more in depth. But there's a point system.
It's kind of like driver's license. You get too many points on your driver's license, they yank your license.
Not that I have any points on my license, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, you've heard some.
I've heard about it before.
Yeah. Right.
Never experienced it on my own or anything.
Yeah.
You know? I want to ask you before we get to the maybe a more serious conversation and a more serious tone. What do the kids call you?
Richie Rich.
Do they?
Yes.
I love it. Reggie!
I'm probably the only officer in the world that has both his names.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
most officers are just the last name. I've always been Richie Rich.
That's so great.
From the start.
Yeah.
Every kid like, oh, Richie Rich.
Yeah, exactly. That's great.
Yeah.
Dude,
So-
that's social media famous right there.
It works. Like I said, I've never really realized what a great name it was until I became an officer, and then I've stopped fights with just simply yelling, you know, I'm Officer Richie Rich, and they're like, what did you just say?
Yeah, exactly. It's so.
It's pause fights. I mean,
exactly.
but-
Hang on.
Yeah. Say that again? Yeah.
Who's coming to bring up the fight?
It's been a great name.
Yeah.
I really can't complain at all.
I'm telling you, you need to capitalize that on social media. I'm not kidding, man.
You get the TikTok going, I'm
Yeah.
sure he'd be in business.
Absolutely right. But
We might know somebody.
yeah, I feel
right?
like there's somebody that maybe, I don't know, right behind you.
Right
could
behind
lend a
us.
hand with that. Just maybe some tips or some pointers or something. What about you, Chief? What do they call you? They just call you Chief?
They just call me Chief, or if the kids know me, they just call me Buster.
Okay.
Man.
That seems to be the thing, especially with boys. I don't know as much about girls because I didn't have girls. I only have a son, and he had all this 9 group of boys that they have been thick as thieves since they were about 8 years old. And still to this day, anytime they're all home from college, they spend every minute together until they have to go back. I mean, these boys will be lifelong friends. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
And they love calling adults by their first name. And it was weird the first time that I had a kid in 10th grade be like, "Hey, Tug!" You know, I was like, "Who's calling me? Who?" It's usually Mr. Cow, which I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't used to it. It just took me a minute to get used to it. So yeah, that whole first name thing that's when you know you're in.
And it's funny you say that because kids coming up through high school, my kids were in school, so my kids started calling me by my first name. And at first
Same
it upset
here,
me
dude.
and my wife a little bit, but I was like, you know what? I can be Buster.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my name. Why not let
Absolutely.
them call me Buster?
Right. because it's that relational thing.
Exactly.
Right? You've accepted what they've approached you with. If
And
you make a big deal out of it, it'll become a big deal.
Yeah, and they see their friends call me that, and they think, hey, my dad's kind of cool. I think I want to call him Buster. I'm like,
You're exactly right.
That works.
A lot
Is
of
that
people.
a generational thing? Because
I think so.
I mean, my kids call me Daniel, which I think is crazy, but like,
Yeah,
they
so
do
odd.
it.
Yeah.
They do it, and they know that I don't like it. So, because if
That's why they do it.
If
For a
I
whole
would have done
different
that back in the day, there would
my
there's no
daddy
way in hell I wouldn't have made it out the
None
gate.
of that.
You wouldn't have made it out the box.
It is so generational, but I think you do have to, and y'all are the pros at this. Y'all are the ones that know. I think you just have to meet them where they are,
Yeah.
and that's, and I do believe it takes the sting out of being authoritarian. You know, it just puts you on the, not that you're on their level necessarily, but you're not afraid to communicate with them where they are.
yeah. So a buddy of mine explained to me, he's like, if they feel friendly enough to call you that, let them call you that.
exactly
man.
right.
I mean, that's how you get closer to them.
I think so, too.
Get on their level.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Richie Rich, what's up? Down the hall, I can hear it now.
All the time.
Absolutely. What's for lunch today? You know, I can hear what's up.
All the time.
What's
yeah.
Cherokee's position on the cell phones? Because this is like a big topic that comes up.
Cobb just banned them.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
saw
so
that.
what's, because I'm curious though, because
So-
I do know a lot of kids in the Cherokee County school system and people, you know, that we all talk about this stuff in Cobb too. But like, what's going to happen? Because I know on the state level, they're looking at basically just blanketing.
Yeah,
Obviously, that's
I think the state
discussion
level is
at the
K
Capitol.
through 8 right now is
Yeah.
what they're proposing. So beginning of this school year, we had a new superintendent come in March, and she talked to a lot of parents, talked to a lot of students, talked to a lot of teachers, and the main point that they would bring up is cell phones are a distraction.
Yeah.
So
Hard to argue that.
yep, the board put into policy that you cannot have your cell phone out in
Yep,
school.
that's what I've heard,
So it's
yeah,
in a
from some
bag
kids.
or it's put up. Unless the teacher tells you to pull it out to do some work on it, it's put up. And it's made a huge difference.
Positive.
Huge difference.
So that's
Very,
good. That's
very
good to hear.
positive.
And so I see the distraction in the classroom. I understand that positive difference. How does it make a difference for y'all?
So for us, we see less bullying.
I was going to say.
I
Interesting.
mean, you get a lot of bullying
Right.
on your cell phone. I mean, think about it. When you were a kid, you did something stupid in school. Your friends talked about it that day.
and
Everybody
it's
went
forgotten.
home and forgot about
Yeah,
it. Next
right.
day, well, now they're talking about
It
it
lives
during
forever.
class,
All the
during
way through.
breaks, all the way, all night.
Okay.
long.
So let me take it a step further. So the Appalachia tragic
Yep.
shooting that happened, right? Obviously, because that's where the conversation really started coming up in my house. It's like, well, what happened if this happened? Well, now I have no phone. Now I have no way to reach out to my parent. You know what I'm saying? All that kind of stuff. So, like, I don't know what's the right or wrong answer here, obviously. I mean, it's great to hear that you're having success with the plan that Cherokee's rolled out.
Well, but they still have it. It's just in a bag, right? You
Yeah,
just-
they still
They
have
still have
access
their
to
cell
it.
They
phone.
so they still
it's
have the
gotta be
actual
put
It's
away.
got to be
So
put in a
some
backpack.
of them, some teachers, what they'll have is like a shoe tree.
Right.
And they basically have that little shoe tree. They walk in and they're like, okay, put your phone in the shoe tree. And they
Right,
put it
back
in
in
it
the
can
there.
go into the classroom. Like I know my daughter at the school she was at, they would drop it in the door, and there's like on the back of the door there's
Yeah.
cubbies basically, and you just drop your phone in, and then on the way out of class to the next class you pick the phone up and go. But it's like one of those like mental things, like the security issue of like knowing that you're okay, and like if I need to call my parents or I need to call someone, I can. That
Yeah.
type of is some of this feedback I've gotten.
Yeah.
And we got that at first. But honestly, I think the chief alluded to it. I mean, most of the kids are really bought into it. I mean,
Which is great.
We knew
That's
parents.
phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that was our
phenomenal.
audience
That's
that we were worried about. Like parents, they would make the argument, oh, how's my kid? And there was other arguments like, oh, well, my child has diabetes, and so they need that monitoring piece. Well, it's not like it's gone. It's still there.
Yeah.
It's in the classroom. But honestly, the kids have been our biggest proponents for it because
That's great.
they're like,
that.
I don't have that problem. You're not having as much problems with, like illicit drug sales because they're not able to go, hey, meet me
Contact,
in
yeah,
the
the
bathroom.
text messaging
So
on
like
Snapchat.
that's taken away as well. So like the kids don't go to the bathroom with their phones. So now they go to the bathroom, they come right back. So tardiness has been better.
Well, yeah, I get distracted on my phone too all the time.
I was gonna say, all the time, yeah.
Just sit there not doing nothing. When we come back, I want to talk to y'all about the because you brought up Appalachia High School and how do we get a better hold on that, and how do we make sure that that nothing like that happens again if we can prevent it at all. We're talking with the Cherokee County Schools Police Chief Buster Cushing and Captain pick up, and Captain Richie Rich here on Extra 106.3. Welcome back to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Coward, along with Daniel Madelon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring, along with Cherokee County Schools Police, Chief Buster Cushing, and Captain Richie Rich. Topic nobody wants to talk about, and I understand why. It's a difficult topic. And we saw what happened at Appalachia High School. My nephew graduated from there a few years ago. So it was like, oh my gosh, this is too close to home.
Mm-hmm.
What do parents do? How do we prevent this? What is your expert advice on stuff like this? How do we protect from it? I know there's not a golden answer.
There isn't.
There's not the golden key to open the gate, but what is it that you recommend? A lot of communication, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Talk to your kids. The kids are going to hear about it before anybody does. And if you just, allow them to open up and to say what's going on in their lives, and that's what we tell officers to do. Just make contact with somebody that you think may know something. I mean, you never know what someone's going to tell you. So just having an open line of communication, especially with your kids, about what's going on, what kind of rumors are flying around. We've been very fortunate. We have an anonymous app that parents and students can use 24 hours a day.
Like a tip line.
Yeah, it's an app. They can go on their phone. They can send pictures. They can send videos. They can send recordings of a message. And nobody's going to call you and, ask you who you are and what you're doing. But that's been a game changer. You guys just
verify whatever comes in. And
absolutely, yeah. And that goes not only to us, but it goes to the school administrators, our leadership in school operations. And we've had to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning because we got, a parent worried about what's going on in school the next day. Goodness. So we're going to investigate it and find out.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I was going to say, piggybacking off of that, just perfect example. My oldest son overheard, some kid talking about it ended up being like, World of Warcraft something. So it was a video game, but he overheard it. And instead of telling me, he, immediately got on that app, reported it anonymously. Eventually they figured out it was my son. They're like, well, why didn't you tell your dad? And he goes, well, because I was right here in school and I just reported it. We're supposed to report it. And so
I've been taught to do.
Yeah. And so it's been a great program. Honestly, it's outside of just that danger. Just the kids' danger of their self-harm.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing. We don't have a number of how many kids we probably saved with that app.
Right.
Just because, you never know who was going to take it seriously.
Reporting themselves, like needing help, reaching out for help, or someone else saying, hey, I'm worried about someone?
A lot of times what happens is they'll report to their friends. They'll say something to their friends. Their friends will turn around and, I can't sleep with this. I can't handle this. I don't want that responsibility. They'll put it in an anonymous tip.
Got it.
And then we have all our jurisdictions, local jurisdictions work together with the child safety protocols and everything that we have in place. Within 30 minutes, they have to make contact with those kids.
Is that the vector alert system?
That is the vector alert system, yes, sir.
In case parents were, had heard about that. Maybe didn't know.
Absolutely. And they can go on our website, the county district website, and that's downloaded. It's all anonymous, and it's really simple. It really is. And it's a great tool. Like he said, we've
sounds like it
saved a bunch of kids that way, and we've forwarded off a lot of threats that could have been. Usually they turn out to be just over video games or just, hey, I'm mad, I'm going to kill you, something like that. But
we used to say that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I used to say it to my sister probably more than I should have.
It's the casual,
but it's different from when we said it to
absolutely.
now.
Oh, yeah, it's totally different deal.
Right, because now, like, people are acting on it.
You don't know.
Like when I was growing up, it's like, you would just be like, I'm going to kill you. You said it, it was almost... Because it was so absurd. It was almost like
terroristic threats now?
That's
what that's going to come in as? Felony terroristic threats. If I haven't seen it 1,000 times in a warrant, that's what happens. And you can't, and I tell people, I'm like, dude, it's better to say nothing than anything sometimes. If you're feeling like terrible and you're about to say something crazy, don't say it. Don't do it.
Do yourself a favor. So here in the last couple minutes, was there anything we didn't cover that we needed to?
Well, I was going to say, one of the other things that we have the anonymous tip. We also have Centegix. I'm sure a lot of personnel have heard about that, especially after the shooting and everything. Centegix program basically is a badging system. All staff, that includes custodians, everybody. has a badge so that if there's see something, hear something, they have the ability to do a staff alert, which would be a 3-button push, or they go as far as to go into a code red lockdown.
Is it a device that they keep
it is.
with them?
I actually have it right here.
Okay, look at there.
So it's that little button right there.
Yeah.
They just push this button 3 times and it'll get a staff alert. So you have a student that's having a medical problem, a fight, anything like that.
Is it like GPS so they know exactly where to go?
It
That's
shows
a
us
separate
exactly.
system than the vector alert.
That is a separate system, yes,
So
sir.
separate from vector alert.
Yeah. And on top of that, it also has our badging system when they come in. So a parent comes in, they're going to want to visit. We don't have too many visits now. That's some of the protocols that we put in, that if they don't have a reason to be in the building, we don't want them in the building. They want to drop something off, they drop it off on a cart outside. But if they are coming in, your younger guys, they have lunch with mom and dad and stuff like that. They have to go through a badging system, which is also owned by Centegix, called a DINIKID. And so that one does a search, a national search and everything, to make sure that they're not somebody that we don't want in our school.
Wanted.
There's a national sex offender.
Yeah.
Oh, sex offender. Okay.
Yeah.
But the great thing about that badge,
So who gets these now?
Every staff member.
All staff. We've got over
good.
5,000 of them issued out as of last week.
But now you just tap that button
You
3
just tap
times,
that
and then
button.
you know, like, it's game on. Like,
if you go past that,
At least something's
happening.
Yeah.
Like,
If you go
activate.
past that, you're going into a code red.
Code red. Got
And when
it.
that happens, so it's connected to our 911 system. All of the police officers that are working on the road get it. It pops up on your computer and shows a map of that school, and it tells who mashed it and where they're located.
So it gives you GPS.
Exactly.
It'll drop you
and
right
if they're
into where you
moving
need
down
to
the
be.
hall, it's going to show them moving
That's awesome.
away from a room.
It's
gonna
unreal,
show
man. The technology's there.
Absolutely.
But most importantly, the relationships are there, and we're glad that these kids have y'all to rely on. Cherokee County Schools Police Chief Buster Cushing and Captain Richie Rich, the Captain Administrative Operations Commander, today on Back Your Blue. There's so much more that we could go to, run out of time, and if you ever want to come back, you're always welcome.
Thank you for
And,
that.
Thank you very much.
let us know. We can get information out as fast as we can and help promote anything that y'all are doing. Daniel, of course, thanks for making this even possible there at a Second Chance Bail Bonds. My name is Tug Cowart. This is Extra 106.3.